Hi there, I'm Jamie Taylor. Welcome to Your Health Matters, brought to you by Kingman Regional Medical Center, your community-owned hospital. This program focuses each week on different healthcare issues, programs, and services that I think will be of interest to you and your family. I've got a great guest on the program today, so join us right after these messages. Welcome back to Your Health Matters. My guest today is Tanner Miller. He's a fire engineer with Kingman Fire Department. Welcome, Tanner.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me.
Oh, I'm glad you could join us today. So first, before we get into all that other stuff, let's talk about Tanner. How long have you been in Kingman?
I moved to Kingman in 2004,
okay.
Where I took a job with the City of Kingman Fire Department.
Okay.
So I got hired there as a firefighter EMT, and I've worked up to engineer paramedic now, and
very good.
Started a family and going from there.
So your wife from here? Are you
yeah, my wife's here. She works at the emergency room here.
Oh, so, very good.
Yeah.
Very good. And before Kingman, where were you?
I lived in Chino Valley, Arizona, where I was born and raised. So.
Oh, you were born and raised.
Yep.
So you're an Arizonian.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
And Chino Valley, I mean, they're our neighbors.
Yeah.
Practically right next door.
Right
so
down
that's
the street,
awesome. So your family's still back in Chino?
Yep. My dad was a battalion chief for Chino Fire. He retired a couple years ago. And
okay, so it's a family.
Yeah, definitely
you're
a family.
Following a family tradition.
Yes, ma'am.
So have you always wanted to be a fire, it's that fire engineer?
Yeah, ever since I can remember. Want to be a fireman and paramedic, so.
And what kind of training does it take to do that? I mean, you can't just like decide I'm going to be a fireman and put on some boots. It doesn't work like that.
Basically, a lot of the local colleges and fire departments will offer a 6-month fire academy.
Okay.
And they teach us the ins and outs of fire service, like anything from firefighting to extricating cars to hazardous materials, stuff like that. And with the City of Kingman, you have to have that and an EMT certification as well. So that's another 6-month semester. You got to test out of that, nationally certified, and then you can apply for City of Kingman.
Okay. So did you take your classes here locally?
I did my fire academy and my EMT in Prescott, and then I ended up doing my paramedic class here locally at MCC, and then I finished out my degree. I have an associate's in fire science. So.
Oh, very good.
Yeah.
So the science of fire.
Yeah, which is an exciting one. So.
I bet it is.
Yeah.
And there's a lot more to it. Obviously, a lot of times people just assume all you do is put out fires, but the fire department does a whole lot more.
Absolutely. All our engines have hazmat technicians on them, so any kind of weird ooze or anything in a danger to the public, we can handle that. Okay. And every fire engine, City of Kingman fire engine people see will have a certified emergency paramedic on it.
Okay.
So as paramedics, we can do any kind of advanced life support. We can do cardiac drugs and medications. We can defibrillate people.
So a lot of times you're first on the scene.
Yeah.
Even before the ambulance gets there.
Yeah, a lot of times the ambulance with us is a transport agency, so they show up to help us transport. We don't transport through the city, but they're a private contractor.
Hard to throw them on the back of the ladder.
Yeah, or the engine. People don't like riding on the hose beds, so. But yeah, and that's the EMS side of it actually is about 98% of what we do.
Okay. So. Well, yeah, I know that's, I've seen with personal experience actually with my mother when she was still with us, and she'd had a number of different falls and things like that. And the fire department was always the first one there.
We're more, we have more stations throughout town where the ambulance has one here in town and a few out in the valley. So it's easier for us to get there, start initial treatment, and then the ambulance can come and help us with transporting and stuff like that.
So you're a team.
Absolutely.
And then works,
absolutely.
And then
Lots of teamwork.
And then you follow the ambulance to the hospital?
Yeah, a lot of times if we have serious calls, we will ride in and assist the ambulance paramedic. They have paramedics on their ambulances too, but a lot of our calls, the more hands the better, so we will definitely ride in. With us, it's all the fire agencies locally will do that. With us, it's a little more easy because we're so close. You know, with the hospital being in our city, and we can come in. So
that makes it good.
Yeah.
So you've had a lot of background then, or had to learn a lot. And
yeah, definitely a lot of learning. You learn every day.
Yeah.
I don't care if you've been there a year or 20 years. You constantly are learning, which is
something new all the
yep.
time. So when you are actually at the scene of a fire, are you actually? I mean, do you go with them if they're just going to
I can. As an engineer, my initial responsibility is the engine, so I will pump the engine and I supply the water.
Oh,
and
okay.
That's my initial responsibility. A lot of times, if we do have like a structure fire, a house fire, we'll have a few engines come in, and sometimes if we're the second or third in, they already have somebody pumping. I will don my gear and go in with my crew.
Oh, okay.
But most of the time, I'm on the panel, so you miss out on a lot of lot of the action. But
okay. So the panel is what you see on the side of the trucks. Is that it hooks up to the
basically all our trucks carry 500 gallons of water.
Okay.
Which if you have a really big fire, well-involved fire, that's not going to get you very far. So
spit in the wind
as the engineer, we got to hook into a fire hydrant. You got to get a supply, and then we have multiple discharges and valves and stuff that we need to activate to whatever. There's a lot of algebra into it. We figure friction loss through the hoses and the correct pressures and stuff, because you can, if you do too low of a pressure, you can burn up your crew inside, and if you do too high of a pressure, you can blow them off the line. So.
Right. Well, we had that accident not too long ago with one
with the hose testing. So it's important to do it right, get the pressures right, and get everything set up.
So it's a lot more involved, I think, than people initially
A lot of
think.
math.
Oh, it's math?
Yeah.
Oh,
algebra,
wow.
A lot of algebra.
Oh, don't tell my grandson that. No. No, it's like math. Oh, no.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so we know that the fire department and you yourself are involved in a lot of different things. You touch a lot of different people's lives in different aspects. But you've got a new project, and that's really what we want to talk about today, is this keeping your kids safe in the summer.
Basically, in 2010, I was working with a crew, and we had both the guys working with me had daughters. We all had daughters. At the time, my daughter was about 4 months old, and we went on a young girl that had perished from being left in a car. She was in there for a long period of time.
Here in Kingman?
Mm-hmm. And these are the calls. A captain for us always likes to say that this is the best job 99% of the time, and 1% of the time it's the worst job in the world. Yeah. Calls like that definitely get to you, especially if you have kids, because you see your kid there, you can't help it. Yeah. Really tore me up, and I mean, to the point where I was thinking, like, I don't know if I want to do this anymore. You know, I kind of am thinking about getting out. I can go do something else, and then I didn't want to do that. There's a lot of work involved, especially to earn your paramedic and get to that level. So I started researching it, and the numbers I came back with were just sickening. In 2010, 49 children across the U.S. died from being left in a vehicle. Wow. And so I started looking up statistics. 2011, there was 33 died. And so far here in 2012, we have five. Five have died. And, and there's none in Arizona so far this year. It's east, you know, or Midwest in that area. And it's easy to find the access to it, but a lot of the stuff I wondered is like, why is this happening? And you see a lot of the trend kind of pick up when airbags started coming into vehicles, because when you bring in an airbag, your child can no longer be in the front seat and they go to the back.
Oh, true.
So, and a lot of the people are, I mean, I just had my son in May. He's 2 months old.
Oh, congratulations.
And thank you. But it's a lot of work, and especially with a toddler, and I just find myself, you know, lost in my day, because you're so exhausted and you're tired. And it became a thing where people are just overlooking it. You know, they're forgetting the kids in the back seat. So it kind of got to the point where I was looking at it, and the stuff that really blew me away is one of the statistics I found online was on an 80-degree day, which is relatively, what is today, 100? Yeah. You know? On an 80-degree day, in 20 minutes with the windows cracked, your car can reach lethal levels for your children.
With the windows cracked?
Yes, ma'am.
So even though people think if they leave their windows rolled down a little bit, but even then.
Even with the windows cracked. And it applies to your pets too, but the difference with your children, with young babies, is that me or you, we can build up kind of the resistance to heat. You can dissipate it better with your blood circulation. Kids actually, their body temperatures rise 3 to 5 times faster than adults. Wow. And it takes that much longer for them to dissipate the heat, to circulate it out of their system. So when you're sitting in a parked car and you're like, oh, it's hot in here. But
and you can roll down the window or open the door and get out.
But even if being warm, you got to think that to a baby, it's 5 times hotter than it is to you, and it's 5 times faster that they're going to reach those critical levels of their heat.
So exactly where's critical?
I mean, I don't know exactly. You know, I know body temperature, anything above, you know, 105.
Right.
Well, you're looking
like
at
temperature.
You're looking at
if someone's sick.
Irreversible type of damages. And I know anything. I think, I hate to quote it, I want to say 108, 110 was lethal. That's where you're not going to make it.
That's the body temperature.
And that's your internal body temperature. Okay. We did an article for the Miner last week on our car hangers, and she left, one of the Miner reporter that did the story for us, she left her hanger in the car for 30 minutes on a 90-degree day, and it read 120. Whew. So, I mean, 120 to a baby.
That's Havasu, though. No.
Yeah, anywhere. What a lot of stuff you find is Window tint will actually help cut down that heat. It builds it slower just because you're not getting the direct UV to it. Yeah. But one of the critical factors with the heat build in your cars is the interior, the type or color you have. Older vehicles get hotter faster, stuff like that.
That's because they're made with steel more versus plastic.
That and a lot of the insulation barriers are either worn down or not as good as the newer vehicles. So the heat from the tranny or the engine actually get in the vehicle.
Yeah, that's true. You can actually almost feel it up through the floorboard sometimes. So makes sense.
I came across all this statistics, and it really, to me, it was a huge issue. Yeah. There's obviously something not correct or something wrong that is taking these kind of numbers.
It really is. But obviously, it's happening enough that there's a problem.
And a lot of the stuff, a lot of the main ones aren't the direct parents. A lot of the direct parents are pretty good about it.
Sure. Well, I mean, you miss your baby.
And you have stuff happen, but a lot of it's like daycare. There's daycare facilities. I know in I believe it was 2011 they had a daycare facility death in Florida, 2011, 2010. Yeah. So people that aren't clearing the buses or the vans, and then a lot of people that aren't used to the kids, grandparents, relatives that aren't used to having the kid every day, that's other issues too. So my goal was to build a program, something like, I know the Phoenix area is really good about the watch your kids around water, stuff like that, and I wanted to make something for the clear your car stuff because people don't realize. Another thing that's really staggering is more than the deaths is you don't realize the close calls. Like, because there's multiple calls we've ran on where people have accidentally left the kid or intentionally without meaning to cause harm, where they're like, I was just going to run into the store real quick or the post office. A lot of that is scary, and it's not, there's no statistic out there to see it.
Because they catch them in time.
Exactly.
But
that's the real scary part. And not only are the kids, if they're living, but I mean, what kind of damages are you causing? Because when they're exposed to those levels of heat. And, even you want to say fast food, or the post office, you're going to burn a good 20 minutes going into the store, coming back out, because people want to say fast food, it's quick, but you got to wait through the line, you got to wait for it cooked. So.
Yeah. Okay, well, we're going to take a quick break because then I want to talk about the program itself, what you've done, and what we as individuals can do too.
Perfect.
I think there's some good stuff. I hope you enjoyed the first part of the program. Stay tuned. We'll be back right after these messages. Welcome back to Your Health Matters. My guest today is Tanner Miller. He's an engineer and paramedic with the Kingman Fire Department. Thanks again for being on the show,
absolutely.
Tanner.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
So we were talking before the break about these scary, sad statistics of the number of children who die every year being left in the car in the middle of the summer in that heat. And I want to go over those stats again just real quick because I don't think people really appreciate how fast it happens. And what did you say with your car windows cracked?
Usually on an 80-degree day with the windows cracked, your car can reach lethal temperatures within 20 minutes.
Wow. And you can't go into Walmart and back out in less than...
And that's an 80-degree day. We're 80-degree days in March.
Now we're coming
right
up to
around
the middle of the summer.
100 degrees, absolutely.
Right. So then it's probably, 5 minutes? I mean,
yeah,
less
you would think.
even.
Yeah, it's... So, basically, with the program, I wanted to do something because you got to do something. And to me, it was therapeutic almost to kind of get past the bad of the call and take what you can positive out of it and develop a program. So I developed a program called Clear Your Car, and basically I wanted to kind of shadow it behind the Watch Your Kids Around Water they do in the Phoenix area. Initially, I got with Tim at KGMN, and he let me record a PSA, which they play throughout the summer on their stations. Cameron Broadcasting was also really good about playing it. And basically, the message we want to get out there is don't ever leave your kids alone. Not even for a minute. Always get your kid out. And I sympathize. I have children, and I know how much it is where you're like, ugh, like they just fell asleep. I don't want to wake them up to go in.
And I'm just going to be a minute.
But you have to, because it's waking them up, or and a lot of suggestions we have for people is like, if you can, in today's society, there's a lot of drive-throughs. There's a lot of stuff like that. So it's like, wait until your kid falls asleep and then go do all the drive-through stuff. And then when they wake up or before, go do where you have to go in.
Oh, that's smart too. So it's better planning.
Absolutely, absolutely. And take that, we're trying to get people to take that little extra initiative to actually step in and think
about others.
And trust me, I would like to be like, oh, just sleep. I don't want to.
Oh, I know.
You're making me crazy, but you know, it's an
You're
important
sleeping.
thing.
My favorite time of the day, right?
Yep. So we did our radio show, or our radio PSA, and then we've done some stuff with Channel 57, which has been really good. And then I got to talking to Scott Kern. He's the PA
public relations
public relations manager. I forget the
Yeah, that's fine.
So we actually came out with a card, and the card, I don't know if you want to hold it up for you guys, but basically it has a thermometer on it, and it will monitor. It hangs on your mirror, and it's a lot of the size like your you know, any typical handicap, you know, signification, stuff like that. And it will basically color and show you how hot your vehicle is.
Wow.
And this has been a real eye-opener for people, because they're like, I didn't realize my car is getting that hot.
Right.
And to pay for this, the Kingman Regional Medical Center and the professional firefighters at Kingman, the local 4191, they actually half the price. So our initial plan was we were going to hand them out with the new parent kit, which everybody, every time you have a child here at Kingman Regional, they give you a packet with resources and information and stuff like that. So we wanted to give it out to the new parents just so they know. The Miner ran an article on them last week, and it was so massive that we've had phone calls. I know my phone and Scott's phone have been ringing off the hook. So we're trying to get a game plan where we want to go next as far as getting them out there and getting them going. So it's definitely a good thing. It came to me in a dream. I was like, why don't we have something with a thermometer on it? So we've tried a few designs, and this is what we came up with.
Well, that's really cool, because I know, and we were talking earlier about how the newborns obviously are the most at risk, or newborns the under a year, because once they get to be a year, they're a little bit more visible maybe in the car seat. And you're more used to them hanging on you or being around you all the time. And it's those little ones.
Yeah, the little ones are the most, and they're the most fragile, you know, being the youngest first stage of life, they're the more fragile. But the older kids, I know my 2-year-old, if she needs something, you know it. Like, she tells you nonstop.
And like you said, even with her, you know, if she fell asleep in the car seat, it'd be really easy to think, oh, she's sleeping out, running quick.
Or that's a counterpoint to where if you're busy and you're unloading groceries or you're doing something and they fall asleep and you don't hear them, you know, that's where the older kids' statistics kind of come into play. So, also on our card, I wanted to say also we have tips on the back, just some tips I was going to go over with you, just to kind of remind people of how to not leave your kids in the car, because it's easy to forget. The first one that we like to sell is never leave a child alone in a car.
Period.
Ever. I don't care what you're doing. Always take your kid with you, because how many times do you go in somewhere fast and it turns into something else, and next thing you know, you're...
Well, and even from a safety point from your losing your child, I mean, your child being kidnapped or taken out of the car.
Absolutely, and there's a whole nother factor. And we always like to stress, don't overlook sleeping babies. You know, always know where your kid's at, what they're doing. Another suggestion we like to tell people is I know between me and my wife, I have the car seats in my truck, and she has her car seats, and there's times I have a car seat there with nothing in it. And a lot of our suggestion is to put a stuffed animal or something in the seat when you don't have your child, and then when you do have the child, take it out and put it in the front seat with you so you can visibly see.
Oh, that's a good reminder.
See it in there when the kid's back there.
Okay.
And then another one is to keep a briefcase or cell phone. You know, everybody needs their cell phones, stuff like that. So a purse for women. You know, stuff you need every day to keep that back there with the child. So when you go back for your purse or your phone, the kid's back.
Baby's there too.
Yeah. And then another angle we want to make too is not everybody has kids, but we're trying to raise awareness for people when you're walking through big parking lots.
I was just going to bring that up, is that we as individuals, even if we don't have parent or babies, what we can do is look for them,
and that's some of the best times to find them.
That's how people catch them.
Yep, and that's a lot of our calls have come in from that. You know, it's not the actual people like, hey,
I left my baby.
It's more
like, hey, there's a baby here.
Yeah, those were a lot of our calls come, and a lot of the people I talk to have always said, you know, I always look for animals like dogs, and I mean that's another good point.
Sure,
at this
pets
time, pets are just as susceptible.
Too.
So we're trying to get public to actually look out there, scan vehicles, and you know, don't wait for the people to come back. Don't wait, like call 911 right there.
I was just going to ask. So that's what they do. If you see a baby in a car, there's nobody else around, call 911.
And we can come, and I mean, we can break windows, we can get kids out, and then we can sort through everything else later. But, you know, our initial concern is the health and safety of that child.
That's awesome.
And I mean, if you wait for what are you doing with this kid? You know, wait for the parent or somebody to come back. That's too late. So.
Well, and that almost can raise more issues sometimes.
Absolutely,
you know?
absolutely. So we're really trying to push that aspect of it. Is you know, now it's everybody look, you know, and just think about it. If you're hot, if you're uncomfortable and it's hot outside, just scan a vehicle real quick. Because I mean, a lot of people, you got to walk past a dozen cars to get somewhere. So it's a good point, you know, to get the public kind of on our side to protect our children.
They're our future.
Yeah. So
every time I'm involved with, whether it's Kiwanis and the Bugs program or working with the kids, I always tell them, do you know why I care so much about you? And they're all like, no, why? And I said, because you're my future. When I get old, I expect you to have a good job to help pay for me.
Absolutely. Make the right decisions and go from there.
Right. So. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's pretty awesome. Now, okay, so Tanner, we know if you see a child in a car, you call 911. But how do they get these cards? What are we going to do?
Basically, like I said before, our initial plan, and a lot of it's uncharted. You know, that's where it's kind of like we do stuff, and I can be honest, I never assumed that I would be, it would be this big.
Spearheading this whole program.
The positive reaction from the community has been excellent. It's been so nice to have people call me and like, we're behind you, what you're doing, we want it, you know, we want to help, and it's been really good. So initially our plan was to hand them out with the packets. I'm actually meeting with Scott because Scott and the PR guys designed and ordered them in. So our first batch is kind of limited. We're trying to determine how many we can get the spread out.
Sure.
But I mean, it's definitely something we're looking at doing annually. So if it's people that have requested, we're trying to get them to you. It's just it might be a little bit. So I know we've gotten through the union, the professional firefighters of Bullhead and the professional firefighters of Havasu have been real good about contacting us, and I've also
so you're trying to get them out there too.
We are, yep, and we heard from Phoenix Fire. They've actually contacted me. We have a Facebook page, the Clear Your Car Facebook page, and it sounds like they really want to get involved as well. So it's crazy the support and how many people are like, we want to get on board with this. So,
you know, Tanner, I have to share with you one of the things I think is so cool is, all too often nowadays you hear people complain, you know, they got their issues that they're not happy with, whatever, but rarely does someone step up and do something about it. It's real easy to complain.
Absolutely.
But to actually think about it, find a solution, and then implement it like you're doing, I'm proud of you.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much. And very early in my fire service career, I worked under a captain that always used to tell me, don't come in here with a problem, come in here with solutions.
There you go.
You know, say this is what's going on, but we want to do this. So it's kind of been pounded into my head, so I would learn. So like I said, it's a lot of uncharted territory, but you know, as long as we're out there and as long as we're doing this stuff, I think we're going to be saving some babies, which is good. You know, because not only do I want to prevent the tragedy of somebody losing a child or grandparents losing a grandchild, or you know.
Oh yeah, I mean, having to live with that.
I also want, because it doesn't stop there, you know, it affects your EMS personnel. The day I ran on the baby in 2010, my wife was on duty in the ER. She's a nurse there, and you know, it affected her, it affected us, it affects everybody. And you know,
I've always said the pain of losing a child, I can't even fathom. I've had many challenges in my life, but that's one I've not had to face.
And it's terrible. I mean, you know, working with the fire department, being a paramedic in the community, you know, you're there at the worst times, and I know kid calls hit you hard, and it's all you can do to perform and do what you need to do. Absolutely. Stay professional and stay on top of what you're doing. But like I said, you know, my goal with this is not only to prevent children from dying in families, children dying period, but to prevent, you know, people from having to go through it. I mean, you might be losing quality paramedics or nurses because they don't want to deal with this.
Sure.
You know, they're like, I can't do this anymore. You know.
So I know that these things were not inexpensive to make. H&H Printers is the ones that actually worked with us to help us find a way to make it happen. So there's probably opportunities. I bet there's folks listening that might want to be a sponsor too.
That would be
so
excellent.
Would they call you or Scott?
Yeah, I would say me or Scott. Like I said, a lot of it is kind of like
getting started. I understand.
So we're really trying to find that path.
So I know Scott's number off the top of my head, and we're going to have to close it up quick, but 681-8656. Give Scott a call, talk to Tanner, get more information. Thanks for joining us today. I hope you'll stay tuned for next week because I'll have another great guest on the show.